Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. The very first DC Sunday of the WNBA season, trying something new. I'm sure it will evolve over time, especially with your feedback as to what you like, what you don't like, and of course, just me getting better at doing it, hopefully. So we'll see how this one goes. We obviously are going to talk about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, and here and there where it makes sense, we'll talk about other WNBA news as well, such as their upcoming opponent and what that might look like on Wednesday against the Washington Mystics, who have been surprisingly good so far this season. So before we even dig in, just in case you haven't seen this, here's another one of those milestones. I mean, we wouldn't really call it a record, but it's just interesting when we talk about how slow, or we'll still say how slow Caitlin Clark started last year and all of this other stuff. Fastest player in WNBA history, 750 points, 250 rebounds, 250 or more assists. Caitlin Clark has achieved those already. And I want to start out by talking a little bit about the Indiana Fever's start at 2-2 that could be, some people have said, 4-0. Could also be 1-3. I mean, the Sky game was the Sky game, but they very easily could have lost that game to Atlanta as well and could be 1-3. They did start out with 4 games in 8 days. Now, that's not anything compared to last season, but it is still a tough way to start because even with, I mean, training camp's not long in the WNBA, and they had a couple of preseason games and the Brazil games kind of, but you still kind of game legs and training legs are a little bit of difference. There is an adjustment time, but now they don't play their next game until May 27th. Okay, so they get a little bit of rest, but some concerns from what I've seen with the team is, and I won't go into a lot of detail about the things I have talked about, but one of them also that I haven't talked about too much now, and seeing who's playing and what we have to offer with the team, they're not as deep as we thought they would be, or at least as I thought they would be, right? Clark is still playing, Caitlin Clark's still playing a ton of minutes. In 2 of the 4 games, she played 38 of the 40 minutes. Most of the time last year, she was able to get a little more rest than that. Now, it was only 32 against the Dream because of foul trouble. One of the games against the Dream because of foul trouble. And it was 32 against the Sky because of the blowout. That's still 140 minutes in 4 games. That's 35 minutes per game, which I think is a slight uptick from last season, which she averaged like 30, I want to say 34 points something, but maybe it was 35 points something. But she's still at those minutes, right? So that is a concern for the rest of the season. As much as we love watching her play, I don't want to see her playing 36, 37, 38 minutes a game, right? We talked about with this depth, or what we thought would be a deeper team, that maybe she could play 30 to 32, right? Like those 32 numbers, they happen in these games because of foul trouble and a blowout, but that's kind of the number I would like to see her play, 30 to 32. But they're still, despite being deeper, very, very dependent on Caitlin Clark. Now, I mentioned in a post game, she played 38 minutes against the Liberty. And, the emphasis, of course, and all the talk, especially from the Haitlins, is the turnovers and how she shot from three. And without a doubt, she didn't shoot great from three. 2 of 11, 0 of 5 the game before. Okay. 2 of 16 the past 2 games. By the way, kind of good timing for Kelsey Mitchell because it's been completely overshadowed, but she is 3 of 16. I mean, 3 of 13, I'm sorry, in the last 2 games. 5 of 29 from Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell in the last 2 games from three. Think about that. They won one of those games and they lost the other by 2 because of the referees. Yes, I'm going to say because of the referees, because they got all the way to the end. You can look at all the plays, you can look at all the calls before, but the final 2 calls were absolutely terrible, and they both went against the Fever, and that's the reason that the Liberty was able to win that game. Okay, so there's no doubt about that, but it is a concern, right? Sydney Colson barely playing at all, not getting off the bench. Again, I would say I would love to have Grace Berger back. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, she's not proven in this and that," but I saw enough. Okay, that's the thing. I saw enough. I saw her college career. I saw enough from her. Remember, she averaged 15 minutes a game the season before Caitlin got here. It's not like she didn't have any experience. And so the point I was going to make in that 38 minutes in that Liberty game, keep this in mind. This is really important. So that she sat 2 minutes, folks, of the 40. They lost by two, but she was +6. That means in the 2 minutes that Caitlin Clark did not play, that she sat against the Liberty, the team was -8. Okay, -8. If we go and look here, and I'm guessing Bonner, I'm going to guess, I don't remember, but I'm guessing Bonner was out the 2 minutes that Caitlin Clark was out because she's the only other player on here that is a plus, and she is +9, right? You did have Dantas in her 4 minutes was even. Everybody else, minuses, minuses, minuses. Um, even Lexi Hull is a -4, but she played a lot. Chelsea Mitchell was a -2. So it's kind of interesting in 38 minutes with Clark, despite the shooting problems, despite the turnovers, +6 in her 38 minutes, -8 in the 2 minutes that she sat out. That is a major, major difference, and that is a concern for the team going forward. Even if they're playing better and figuring things out and playing good basketball, yes, I always say it runs through Caitlin Clark. The offense runs through Caitlin Clark without a doubt. But when she's not in, it's got to be better. It's got to be better. And a couple issues there are, I think, Caitlin Clark is really good with Sophie Cunningham on the court. I think they play well together. But from the short amount, I know it's short, the little bit we've seen so far, um, Sophie Cunningham is really the only other option to bring the ball up the court. I don't like Natasha Howard doing it. I don't think she does it well at all. Kelsey Mitchell gets completely out of sorts when she does it. I think part of the reason that they are both struggling from three, and not the whole reason, but part of the reason is because of the amount of time Caitlin Clark is off the ball, because it not only messes up Caitlin Clark, it messes up Kelsey Mitchell. Okay, so that's an issue for sure. I think that's part of the problem that they're having. But basically, right now, if we continue with, say, Bonner not starting and Hull starting in her place, you've basically got Demiris Dantas, and she only played 4 minutes last game. Sophie Cunningham and Dewana Bonner. That's eight deep. And while you may have an eight-person rotation as like your core in major minutes, but you need to be able to play 9 or 10 players on a consistent basis, just at least for the rest, like we're talking about. Caitlin can't play 38 minutes a game. We need to get Timpson some time. And yes, it's early, but why not get her the time now? Bring her along, even if it's only 5 minutes here or there. She's going to, at the very least, be a good defensive presence. And we absolutely needed that against the Liberty with the way that they played against us on the inside and the size that they have, and players like Jonquel Jones. I would have loved to see Timpson out there and see what she could do. I think Dantas is going to have to get a little more time. We don't really have a backup for Aaliyah Boston. Dantas can play that position, but I think she's more of a power forward. However, we don't have a backup for Boston. So Dantas, I think, has to play a little bit of both. So she needs to play more, I think. I thought she played really well in the Dream win. That was good to see her get those minutes. Um, Here's something that's absolutely wild, and I think I actually have it here somewhere. This might be it. Well, we've got the Fever. I mean, this isn't bad, even with their shooting struggles with Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark. Caitlin's shooting over 50% from two. Okay, just a couple games of threes problems. I mean, and still, if you look at her numbers before I get to that, a lot of the rest of her number now, the turnovers were a nightmare. 10, and she had 10 in the 3 games before that. But it happens. Because here's the other thing I'll say about the turnovers. Do I like that she has 10? Am I going to excuse 10? No. Again, I think part of it is she presses a little more when she spends so much time off the ball. But if you watch the game, you saw some like this one pass to I think it was to Kelsey Mitchell, another to Aaliyah Boston, where it's like I don't think any other player in the league could connect on that pass, but Caitlin can, and she believes she can. High risk, high reward at times, and you kind of have to live with that. There are certain turnovers you definitely want to cut down on where maybe it's just a really terrible decision. But her trying to thread a needle with a great pass to get what would be an easy bucket from time to time, I think we have to live with that. And I will say this, when she's making turnovers like that, I don't mean where, because I said this before, this is where I'll be critical. At times when she's dribbling the ball and kind of setting it up, so she's waiting a little, dribbling, she has a defender in front of her, she's not really going anywhere. That's at times where she gets a little, sometimes she gets lackadaisical. I'll say I won't, not lazy, but I think mentally she gets a little lackadaisical, and that's sometimes she gets her pocket picked. Those we want to get rid of. But when she's throwing those types of passes that only she can throw, and it ends up being a turnover, I think ult overall, that's good because that's the aggressive Caitlin Clark that we need to see. That's the Caitlin Clark who can and wants to take over games and is in her head in the right way. And I think overall, it's a big, big plus for the team, which again is why I say, and this is why I emphasize it, and I already said it a couple of times. Think about this. Caitlin Clark was 2 for 11 from three. She had 10 turnovers. In the 38 minutes she was playing, the team was +6. In the 2 minutes she did not play, the team was -8. Can I be clearer about that? Now, her shooting percentages, because of this, the way she shot from three the last two games, right? 2 of 16 are down a little, but again, all her other numbers, 19 points last year at 19.2. Okay. Averaging more rebounds, 6 compared to 5.7, 9.3 assists to 8.5. Their shooting's a little close there. We can see the three is off. The fouls are even off a little bit, but it doesn't take much when you're not shooting many free throws for that to happen. Her EFG is down a little bit. I expect that to come back up. So, it's really the three, and because Caitlin Clark made her name with the excitement of the logo three, which, by the way, we know she absolutely nailed a couple of monsters. The two that she did make, that seems more of, that's big news. When she's struggling from three, that's big news for everyone, not just the people who want to look at everything that she does poorly to, you know, go after her, but her fans even who are so used to her logo threes are like, wait, whoa, what is going on here? So that's kind of wild. One other thing I also wanted to point this out. Just hold on one second. Now, this does not include the game that was just played. I don't know how it would affect it, but let me see if I can pop this up a little more. Check that out. I might have shown this too, or at least I mentioned it, I think, in a previous video, but defensive rating, number 2 in the league. Defensive win shares. If you can't see this, let me blow this up a little bit for you. Tied, but they put her 2, but she's really tied with all those players. Number 2 in the league as well. So she's not hitting the threes, but other than that, when she is on the ball, that is what the Fever absolutely need. We talked about the two-player game with Aaliyah Boston. Few other things I want to point out with the team I found interesting. Now they're third in the league in field goal percentage. They're second in the league in points. Interestingly enough, they led the league in field goal percentage last year. Now, the other thing I want to point out with this team, right? Last year they were, now this I think became more and higher. I think a lot of these numbers could be higher because we know the start to the season, but here you can see they were fifth in the league in 3-point shots attempted at 25.9. Fourth at Phoenix is 26.1. Three at Vegas is 26.5. The Mystics at 26.8. They're all, except for the Liberty. The other three teams ahead of them are less than a 3-point field goal attempt per game. Okay. So this year, and again, I know it's early, but hey, this is the weekly review, right? So these things may change. If we look at 3-pointers attempted, we got to go all the way down to 10 at only 21 per game. That has to change with this team. When you have Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, those are four players that are 3-point shooters. And then Dewana Bonner and Natasha Howard are players that can shoot the three, right? Like it's not their game, but they shoot them and they shoot them well enough that they're a threat. You absolutely have to be more when you're the Indiana Fever, especially if they're running in transition. You've got to be more than 10th in the league at 3-pointers attempted. You have to be. This I know people get mad. I got a lot of unsubs on my post game and my Twitter account because I was critical of the offense White was running. But hey, I can't change now. Maybe by the end of the season I'll have like 75 subs. The 19 will become 75 instead of 12,000. But if you remember, now it's happened a lot. You saw it in college a lot as well. But the one that stands out, people remember because it really got the team pumped at the time, early in the season, was when they got a kind of a sort of break, and it was Erica Wheeler on the right side bringing it up, and she kind of looked over her shoulder. She knew Caitlin Clark was coming. She just kind of gave a backward bounce pass that Caitlin stepped in, nailed the logo three from 85 feet away. Those types of plays happen when you get into transition. Not only do you get to the bucket, you get open threes. This team should not be 10th in the league, shooting a lot fewer 3-pointers than they were last year. They should be a better 3-point shooting team this year compared to last year. So I think that's got to change for one. I mean, it's all we ever heard. Remember last season, what we kept hearing, it would drive us all nuts, and we all mocked and made fun of us the whole touches in the paint, touches in the paint, get those paint touches, get those paint touches. Well, that team shot a lot more threes than this team did. I'm just saying, a lot more threes than this team did. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about before we get into that. Just let me see if I have a couple more follow-ups real quick from the fallout of last game. So this isn't last game, but I think it absolutely is relevant. I probably should have put this in the post game, but didn't think of it. This was called a foul against Caitlin Clark against the Dream. I don't think there was even any contact at all. Like, and you can see where the referee came from. Um, this is absolutely wild. I think I can slow it down just to be clear, because I want to make sure that you see this and watch how bad this flop is. And there's no contact here at all. The hands go out, but they don't even touch. I don't think. And look at that. And the officials, because you'll see it come into the right. I mean, that is a fireable offense to me. Whoever that 77 is should never officiate a WNBA game. You got to clean again. You got to clean this stuff up. Got to clean this stuff up. Um, and I want to follow up on that because this is also interesting. Rachel put this out. And this is an article that it's interesting in a couple of respects. I want to talk about this real quick. This past season, many people criticize referees for the amount of physicality that is a part of today's WNBA game. It has always been there, urging officials to better protect players who are subject to hard fouls. But as directly as they may be involved, it's sometimes not entirely their call. I think sometimes it's misunderstood that referees make those decisions about the style of play and the interpretation of rules. That's not true. What actually happens is that we have a competition committee for stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers. And that competition committee is the committee that dictates the state of the game. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. No one ever said it did. We're human beings who make mistakes, but when you get an exponential new set of eyes in the WNBA, that's going to bring to some degree a lack of understanding of WNBA officiating. So here again, here's another huge part of the problem. They take something that sort of is true, but if you read this all the way through, the official is blaming the fans, saying it's not our fault because we have this committee, and then blaming the fans for not understanding. You hear that, fans? This is your fault as well because you don't understand WNBA officiating. A couple of points to that. One, this is why I say a little bit of what's true, because I'll give you, you get every year, and the two that I hear about it the most are baseball doesn't change as much, but the NBA and the NFL, especially if there's been a lot of uproar on certain specific calls or non-calls, there'll be things that they look the next year like that they're going to emphasize, right? In the WNBA, maybe it's the impeding the dribbler, maybe the hand check or the hand on the hip by the defensive player, or maybe it's the offensive player with the arm out, or maybe it's a travel, or in the NFL, maybe it's the way the cornerback, how physical the cornerback is with the wide receiver. One that's been recent in the NFL that's been a nightmare for a lot of people is the lineman illegally downfield, like on screens and stuff, but they only give them, I think it's a yard, which is absolutely absurd when a lineman's waiting for like a screen and then they're going to block. Like, but it it's probably was called more times last year than ever combined. Right now, here's the one thing, the other thing I would get. So yeah, there is a little bit of that, which is why I say there's some truth, but none of us are talking about that when it comes to these calls that have been absolutely ridiculous in this league. Just think of the ones that I just showed you from last game, right? Or this one that I just showed you. There was no contact there. That call had nothing to do, by the way, with being human and not being perfect, because there is no way you can get that call wrong unless you're trying to you're purposely impacting the game. Like you can't actually, or you're so incompetent that you never should have gotten into the WNBA as an official anyway. We can look at the call, the for Sabrina Enescu with Lexi Hull. You can't get that wrong. You can't get that wrong. Again, you're either incompetent or you're corrupt trying to influence the outcome of the game. Sometimes those really are the only solutions, the only truths, the only possibilities as to what could be happening on any given play. Now, I accidentally hit the down button because there was something specific that I wanted to talk about that's in here um, that I got to find for you. So hold on one second. Here we go. So this is interesting, and I think this is part of the problem. Another measure, because I've said this before, one of the reasons officiating is so bad. And I think that, there are a few. One, it is very difficult. You probably don't get a lot of people who want to do it. There probably aren't enough qualified for all the sports, all the games that are going on from youth to the professional league. But one of the biggest also is lack of accountability. I've said this before, with plenty of conversation with people. Players who are not good enough, you get cut or benched or cut. Coaches get fired, managers get fired, GMs get fired. I think I said that in the ref video. Um, and referees, I know they love to talk about, oh, well, they do. We grade them and this and that, but nothing ever happens, right? Nothing ever. I mean, there may be the rare occasion, but here's a great example of that. And when you get that, you're not going to have good performance. When there's no incentive to be good, you're not going to be good. That's just human nature. There are a few that will be, but for the most part, you're not. So here we go. We got another measure of accountability is financial penalties. Referees can, not aren't, can be subject to fines when certain mistakes are made. Now we all know, and I said I don't know if it's the WNBA, but I know the NBA and the NFL. If you criticize officials as a player or coach, like in the press conference after, even if the interviewer is kind of baiting you of asking about a call, you will get fined. However, refs will only face fines for making mistakes classified as misapplications of rules rather than typical blown calls, right? Some examples include not allowing a team to challenge when they have a challenge available, not allowing them to call a timeout when they have a timeout. Giving a team two free throws for a technical that should be one free throw, things like that. But nothing that has to do with their actual performance, right? Doesn't matter how bad they are, as long as their application of the rule is correct, which is absolutely wild. And to that point, there's one other thing, two quick things I want to talk about. But this is drives, field goal attempts on drives. Okay. And there's a really interesting thing here. You've got at number 4, Brittany Sykes, who we will see for the Washington Mystics, 4.3 per game. Also in here, down a little bit, you have Mitchell at 3.8 and Clark at 3 even. Okay. Now let's take a look at Brittany Sykes. And this is absolutely wild for a couple of reasons. Free throw attempts per game. She averages in her long career 3.4 a game, has never averaged more than 4 even per game. Am I looking at the right numbers? I don't think I am. I'm sorry, most per game, 3.8. 3.8. Never averaged more than 3.8 per game. Yet this year, in 3 games, she is averaging 13 free throws per game on what, 4.8 drives. Caitlin Clark's 3 drives, right? That's they're less than 2 drives, 2 drive field goal attempts per game. And Caitlin Clark, let's take a look at what Caitlin Clark's doing. Her free throw attempts are 4, 6, 5, and 5. So she's averaging exactly 5 free throw attempts per game. And as we all know, Caitlin Clark never gets, so this is just drives. Caitlin Clark never gets the call on her threes where they impede her landing space. We know that for an absolute fact as well. Um, but I know this one, well, yeah, I didn't get the humor thing going, and I wanted to get a feel, see how this goes, talk about the week that they have. They got the Washington Mystics on Wednesday. I want to try and keep these things under a half an hour, so maybe I'll do a pregame for the Mystics or some things I wanted to talk about I didn't get to. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I appreciate y'all checking out this video. I'll probably be running some random Fever video clips for you. So this isn't all that static. Instead of you don't necessarily have to look at the stuff I'm looking at right now. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below and smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. But also really do appreciate if you have constructive criticism on the format of it. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Appreciate you all so much. Go have the day you deserve, and I will talk to you later.